Hi everyone, I wanted to share some thoughts with you today to help you make big decisions because only you know what's best. So we all have a certain amount of resources, and that could include time, money, and emotions. If you are short on time, that could be maybe if you live somewhere and the landlord would say, you need to do something about this dog by the end of the month or else I'm kicking you out. Or money could be a factor, like maybe a dog has a significant amount of medical bills and it's difficult to continue the medical care for the dog. Money can deplete. Money is a resource. So money could be a factor, or even with training. If the dog needs a lot more training, training does cost money. And emotions can be a resource, and we can be depleted of our emotional capacity to handle whatever we may be handling. So when people are depleted in the emotional category, they may be saying things like, I just can't do this anymore, or I can't live my life like this anymore, or I just can't handle this anymore. So we all have resources of time, money, and emotions, and it can be helpful to evaluate, do you have time? Because maybe you do have a lot of time. For example, maybe your dog doesn't currently do well with children, and you just found out that you're pregnant, and maybe the baby will arrive in 6, 7, 8 months from now. You do have time to make a lot of changes in 6, 7, or 8 months. Also, when the baby arrives, the baby's not running around the house yet. So you also have more time to do training or whatever you need to do before there's any great interaction between a dog and a baby. But money, medical bills take money, training takes money, life requires money. So evaluate these things. Do you have a lot of time, money, and emotions? Are you depleted of time, money, and emotions? Let these things help guide your decision because they certainly are a factor. Also, another thing that I've always felt to be helpful when determining what is the best decision for me is to make a T-chart. So this is called a T-chart, and pros would be on one side and cons would be on the other, and make as many T-charts as you can think of ideas for options. So maybe you are struggling with your dog and you're not sure what the next steps would be for your dog. Put every idea you have at the top of a piece of paper. So one idea could be to relinquish to a breeder, relinquish to a shelter, rehome the dog. Maybe you have a family member that just loves this dog and would be happy to take the dog. There could be pros and cons with that. So write everything out. Maybe a dog struggles with another animal in the home. Maybe you would keep the dog, but you could rehome the cat. There are pros and cons to that. Or rehome any other animal that you may own. Even if, say, dog A fights with dog B, maybe you'd end up keeping one dog but rehoming another dog in the house. Write down all of the pros and cons that you can possibly think of for all of these options. Euthanasia is an option. Write down the pros and cons that would be involved with euthanasia. And even when you write down all of these pros and cons today, step away from this and come back to it an hour from now, come back to it tomorrow. Keep these pages and always revisit them. Write down all of the pros and cons, and you can always come back later and cross off some ideas or add to the list. But everything that's in your head, get down on a piece of paper. So maybe, one of the options is to keep the dog. What are some pros and cons if we keep the dog? What would need to be in place if we keep the dog? So if we keep the dog, then what else must change? What else must happen? And that could include maybe you need to install a fence or you need more baby gates in the house. Maybe you'd have to change your daily schedule because you're keeping the dog. Maybe you need to invest in more training. Maybe if there are issues with a dog walker, you might have to get rid of a dog walker. Maybe that requires you to change your daily schedule. Maybe you need to get a different dog walker. Maybe you need a dog walker that has more experience. Make a list of these things too. If we keep the dog, then what else must change? What can I change? Control the things that you can control, and write down anything that comes to mind. Anything that's in your head, put it on a piece of paper. Another thought that I have here is, what's the expense of a second offense? Would it be a big deal or would it be a little deal? Are we just a little embarrassed by what our dog did when it barked at the neighbors? Or did our dog kill the neighbor's dog? What's the expense of a second offense? If this happened for a second time, would it be a big deal? Would it be a little deal? What would I have to deal with if it happened a second time? And remember, we have resources of time, money, and emotions. And with every day, our resources can change. Maybe right now you don't feel emotionally depleted. Like you're like, no, I can do this. And I want to do everything I possibly can do to help this dog. And I have the money and I have the time to do it. So that may help you make a decision. How much money do you have? Do you have $500 to help the dog? Do you have $3,000 to help the dog? Writing these things down. How much time do you have? Do you have 1 month to figure things out? Do you have 1 year to figure things out? How do you feel? How does this make you feel? Write it down. Like, I feel exhausted. I feel scared. I feel overwhelmed. You can write these things out because it will help you decide on what's best for you and your family. And always evaluate and reevaluate. So revisit these pages every day, every week, every month. Because when we're living with dogs, the situation and the environment that we have within our home can change every day, every week, every month. And it can also change for you emotionally, how you feel every day, every week, every month. So when we're working with animals, always evaluate and reevaluate, and also pay attention to how your body feels. So when you are going through some of these options, if this makes you sick to your stomach, if it makes you want to vomit, pay attention to how your body feels when you think of some of these things. If you'd have to rehome the cat and that makes you sick to your stomach, pay attention to how that feels within your body. And I always say when we're working with animals, we have to trust our gut, because listening to how your body feels when you think of these ideas can help you make decisions. Always evaluate and reevaluate. Write down all of the pros and cons for any idea that you can think of, and then revisit these ideas as often as you need to, and edit and cross off and add to the list. Because as you do this, the decision may feel very obvious to you, when at this moment it may not feel obvious to you. And that's what I'd like to help you do, is just help you think through all the thoughts and think through all the ideas that you have in your head, because no one can tell you what's best, only you can make that decision for yourself. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.